after this in a social media post. But tonight, Trump's allies are not staying silent. Again, it's ones who are very public and high profile. The UFC president, Dana White, telling Time magazine, quote, "I understand that the Obamas are public figures, but I'm completely against saying nasty and false things about people's families. Everyone knows my position on free speech, but I hate that kind of nonsense." And he's not alone. Podcaster Dave Portnoy, who has supported Trump in the past, said this.
There was one moment I do think Trump has to denounce, and anybody associated with it has to denounce, and that's that crazy fighter guy. He took the microphone and he made a derogatory comment about Michelle Obama. When you have that on the White House lawn, on an event you put down, I don't care what you think about the Obamas or anything, that has to be an immediate denounce.
Everyone's here with me on set. Sarah, why is it so hard for Trump to say that this was wrong when it was obviously offensive and wrong, and people who may share his politics are very clearly saying such?
I think expecting Trump to say or do the right thing is useless and disappointing. Look, this is the guy who posted a racist meme of the Obamas depicted as monkeys. This is a guy who posts memes depicting himself as Jesus Christ. There's no decency or decorum in this White House. And when the White House was asked for comment, they also praised the performer, praised the performance of the fighter. They didn't comment on it. They had every opportunity to condemn it. And yes, it's nice hearing folks like Dave Portnoy and Dana White come out and denounce this attack. But it shouldn't take a pressure campaign from people on the right to get the president to do the right thing. You should immediately condemn something like this.
It's a basic, and Jamal, what Sarah's referring to is Jake Tapper asked for a comment from the White House about Hokett's comments about Michelle Obama. And it was the communications director, Stephen Chung, who said, quote, "He had a great win last night. He showed toughness and the ability to pressure his opponent both on his feet and on the ground." Just an absolute refusal to address the issue.
No, it's absolutely right. Listen, I believe in free speech, and I think the real test of your beliefs and your values is when you can support somebody doing something even when you completely disagree with them. And the president having this event was absolutely his right, but it was him promoting a kind of brutishness and a coarseness. And this event, what this fighter said, which I don't even want to repeat, what this fighter said is the level of coarseness that we have to ask ourselves, is that what we really want for our country? A couple of days earlier, they did the weigh-in. They did the weigh-in at the Lincoln Monument.
Right.
In front of the statue of Abraham
Sullivan
Lincoln.
was there,
right? And they almost broke out into that sort of fake fight that fighters do right before, during the weigh-in. They're pushing each other around and other people have to jump in and break them up. And so I'm thinking, here's Abraham Lincoln, who in his first inaugural was calling us to the better angels of our nature. And when you do that, you're making acknowledgement that there are worser angels to our nature, too. Some people call them demons. And those demons they come back. They're like zombies. They reanimate. You can't just kill them once.
Yeah.
And every generation, we get these sort of dark forces that we have to push back. The problem is we usually push them back by getting people out of Vegas. Now we got Vegas and D.C. at the White House, and that's not something people were ready for.
And they're also, but part of the reason he said what he said is because he thought it would fall in fertile territory, which it did.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, saying it in front of the White House, on the one hand, what you're saying is completely true, but on the other hand, of course.
It's the same guy who showed up at the weigh-in drunk and spit on himself. I mean, this is entirely predictable, and it was entirely preventable if you wanted to prevent it. And I think the bigger takeaway from last night is this was a UFC propaganda dream for Trump. It was entirely on message. They're not looking backward. They're not acknowledging any criticism. Pretty soon he'll be talking about the ratings. But he had the microphone, he had the stage, and he dominated it. And he portrayed exactly what he wanted to. Fighters who were tough, bowing down to him. You had Americans versus Canadians. You had no women on the card whatsoever. Even the Honorable Medal of Honor recipients and first responders.
This wasn't American Gladiators.
But it was all white men for the most part, right? Especially when it came to the portrayal, right? Hegseth was notably not there. Kash Patel was not there. Maybe because Trump wanted to mitigate the risk, but he got what he wanted. It was a spectacle of the highest order, and he totally controlled the message, and he's not looking back. And it was a recruiting video.
And Dave Portnoy come out and say this about Trump. He just he can't do it.
But they have businesses, right? They have businesses to worry about. Trump is recruiting for Team Trump, and that's what that was last night. And he wove the military into it in a very nefarious and dangerous way as well.
Something really interesting, though, is that we have seen Trump willing to condemn conspiracy theories like this. He did it with President Macron of France and his first lady, his wife, when she faced similar accusations of being
Candace
a man.
Owens saying
and Candace Owens saying it. President Trump came out and said that that wasn't true and condemned it, but then he can't do the same thing for Michelle Obama. It makes you wonder what's the difference between those two women in his eyes.
Yeah, this is a really important point.
It does make you wonder where Melania Trump is, too. There's a kind of a First Ladies Club, and it seems like this would be a moment for the First Lady to kind of rise above the din and say, you know what, tamp down, boys.
And
she was ringside, completely quiet, never spoke, just sat there. Right. And again, like very few women elevated on any level. And a normal UFC fight has women on the card. UFC is one of the few sports that gives women equal attention. And there were absolutely no women on the card. It would have been an opportunity to elevate someone like a Ronda Rousey, someone who's a legend. And that was entirely absent. Yeah.
And when the White House felt like Melania Trump was under attack by Jimmy Kimmel, even though it was just a joke that he made, and they freaked out and, you know, called for him to be off air and all of these things, they fought that because they felt like the First Lady was under attack, but they're not willing to do the same for a former First Lady. And I just have to say, Michelle Obama has carried herself with so much grace and dignity over the years and has faced these kinds of crazy, baseless attacks, and she still continues to push forward. And I just think that it is really pathetic of this administration, and it's really pathetic of that White House spokesperson. As a former deputy press secretary myself, I would be embarrassed to have my name on a remark like that, praising the performance of the fighter. I mean, come on, it's pathetic. She has not been in office, or her husband has not been in office, and she has not been the First Lady for nearly a decade, and yet she continues to live rent-free in these losers' heads.
She was dominating that moment.
Yeah, these tropes that you hear, that are in Reddit and all these sort of places,
these
are really old racist tropes that have been around for a long time, and the fact they're happening on the White House lawn and nobody calls it out, it's really disappointing.
Paul, let me ask you the other breaking news tonight that we are confirming the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Eastern District of California, is leading probes into multiple people connected to the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, including his wife, who runs a nonprofit on tax-related crimes, possibly. We don't know. Newsom brought this up today. He was the one who said this is because, I criticized Trump, and everyone who has criticized him ends up on his list. Here he is.
Donald Trump isn't just coming after me because of my mean tweets. He's coming after me because I'm considering running for president, because he hates that I've consistently called him out over and over again for his lies and